Hello, Revivalists. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my interview with Stewart Perrilliat. In part 2, we delve into solutions that solve problems. Stewart touches upon programs that are having real impact, helping inmates cope with life in prison while preparing them for life outside, including parenthood. Malachi Dads is a prison group that teaches men how to parent from prison and co-parent with the moms. These very successful programs soon will be launched across several states and Canada. Just a reminder, if you want to be counted among the Revivalist royalty, subscribe via Patreon. You'll find content not found anyplace else. Start with an easy $5 a month subscription. If you believe in the mission and what you see, consider increasing your subscription level. Of course, there are goodies only subscribers will have access to, so get your subscription now so you can be counted among the founding Revivalist royalty. Enjoy!
And I said, man, why don't you want to be a lawyer, man? Why don't you want to be a doctor? Or why don't you want to have your own business and sell houses or sell cars? It says, because we don't see those kind of people in our community. So what do you see? We see drug dealers, we see hustlers, we see pimps. Now we're talking about the real urban communities. We're talking about where the survival mode is. I mean, everybody's trying to make it.
I'm trying to dodge a bullet. I'm just trying to dodge a bullet.
Yeah.
One of the things you had mentioned was the two different anointings, from the one that comes from the mom and the one that's from the dad. Can you talk about that? I mean, I think you already touched on it from the father's perspective, but what about the mother's perspective?
When people hear Man to Man in the program that we run, they think it's a men's support group or something,
right.
But it's not a men's support group. It's a program that helps men to be better men and they give them the tools that they never had. And so it helps them with working with domestic violence. It helps them, with fatherhood and things like that. And the reason I brought that up is because kids need both parents.
Yes.
They need a mother and they need a father. And there's different parts they play. A mother is very comforting and nourishing and loving. And not saying a father isn't, but the mother has.
But in a different way.
Yeah, it does it in a different way. Fathers are masculine and, hard and, tough. We're hunters by nature. We want to be able to show, be good, be tough, man, be a man, but then we also need to learn how to be compassionate and loving and nurturing, and we can learn that from the women. That women part is so important, but so is the father's part. And so that's where the balance comes in, where they have a mother who's very loving and caring, and then they have a father who's the disciplinary and more firm and gives you your foundation and your discipline and your identity. And so they need both. If one of those parts are missing, then that's a missing part of that child's life. If a mother is raising a young boy, she's doing the best that she can, but he's still missing that part of the identity of who he is. And when you look at any man, I don't care who you are, and if you really want to know who that person is, go back 3 generations and you'll find out. Find out who the grandfather was. Find out what he did. Find out what the father did. Even though you don't like that person, he's in your DNA, and that is the seed of who you are. And that's the positive part or the negative part. We have mothers all over the world that are taking on the form of something that they were never created to be.
100%. I did try to be macho. I don't know how else to explain that, but I would, at one point, I forgot what the circumstances were, but I got in his face and I said, "You will never be bigger than me. You will never." It's and blah, blah, blah. And I, because I felt like I had to be that firm so like he gets the hint that I ain't putting up with this. I don't care how big you think you are, how badass how bad you think you are. As soon as those words came out of my mouth, I'm like, I'm not supposed to say this. I could feel
Sometimes we feel like we're pushed to that place because we have to show that we are that person. I don't believe that God created the woman to have that burden. And when I say burden, of being the mother and the father.
Yeah, I claim Mother's Day and Father's Day. Thank you very much.
So do I. I mean, my daughter said Happy Mother's Day. Kind of messed
right.
me up. I was like, but then I said, she got it. She got it. And it's not that her mother is not alive. It's not that she doesn't spend time with her mother, but she recognizes, that I am playing dual part. But I know the importance that she needs to have her mom. I understand that. When we talk about the importance of a mother and the importance of a father, it's so important that they learn how to communicate. That's why it's so important that they learn how to co-parent. That mother shouldn't have to work 3 or 4 jobs to take care of that child, which is the reason why she's living in poverty. And while she's working those 3 or 4 jobs, that means that kid is free to do whatever she or he needs to do during that time, because he is not being supervised. There is no structure. There is no boundaries. That's when, the risky behavior, the risky sex, the drugs and the alcohol, because there's no checks and balances.
Right.
It's important. The woman is having help from the man, and that they learn how to communicate. And regardless if the woman's been hurt by the man, you don't cut the child off because you're hurt. Or the man has been hurt by the woman, you don't just abandon your responsibility because you don't want to put up with her. You divorced her, but you didn't divorce the children.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you had talked about your parenting in the 21st century and the fact that it's for both parents. And it talks about how these men in prison, how they have to learn how to get along with the mom and vice versa. Please talk about that, because that's so important.
There's a program in San Quentin that one of my goals is to take this to every prison, probably in America. It started off in Louisiana. It's called the Malachi Dads. And,
right, yes.
In the last chapter of Malachi, it talks about fathers turning their hearts towards their sons or their children, and children turning their hearts towards the father. And it says, unless this happen, there will be a curse in the land. We're living in that curse in the land right now. I can point it to you. I can show you. I don't need to show you. You can see it. You can just see fathers are against sons and sons is against fathers and mothers.
Even start with the president. I mean, when I was in a prayer group, we did Course of Heaven on him. And I could see him curled up in the fetal position in his suit, just bawling because he was abused, he was neglected, and this is the product that we have today. I mean, there it is. There's your easy example of what fatherlessness will do if you don't land up in prison.
Yeah. It's and those are the most dangerous ones, is the ones that didn't really have a lot of power, didn't have a lot of authority, that was abused and really didn't have, that influence on other people. And then when they get that influence or they get that power, they're dangerous because they don't know how to balance it. They don't know how to monitor it. And so what happens is it gets out of control. They overdo it. Gets to the point where I'm in control. I can do whatever I want to do. When I want to do it. I remember being in the Marines and had this lieutenant, and you could tell that growing up, that he was a wimp. You could tell that he probably used to get beat up every day. But now he's a captain. And so he wants to flex his authority, his power. When I see other captains come into a platoon or organization, and they would just kind of ease their way in. They will watch the way things were. They wouldn't make any drastic changes or adjustments. They would just let the process work itself and acknowledge it from afar, and then they would tweak it as they needed to. Well, those were the ones that were secured in themselves. They didn't need to prove anything. They didn't need to act as though they were something that they weren't. Like a person that never had
identity.
Yeah, I get it. If a person never had a problem with women, women is not a problem for them. It's not a struggle for them because it's something that they've always had. And then you got the other person who's never had any women, and he was a nerd or he was a geek or whatever the situation was. And then all of a sudden he started lifting weights, and now he's wearing contacts. He doesn't wear glasses anymore, and now he's a nice looking guy. He's getting a lot of attention from the women. He doesn't know how to deal with that because that's the norm for him. Does that make sense? And so that's
no experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And no wisdom had ever been shared with that person.
Well,
so in addition to no firsthand experience, the father didn't tell him, well, no, you don't do that with the ladies. No, you don't need to do that. No, you should be in blah, blah, blah. So now you're doing a live stream of this Malachi Dads program on your website?
No. The Malachi Dads is in prison. And so the Malachi Dads is a group of men that come together and they are taught how to have relationships with their children while they're in prison. Okay. So they're establishing relationships. These guys have abandoned their children because of selfishness or committed a crime at a very young age, and they have no relationship with their children. And so they are taught on how to start writing letters, how to communicate, how to be, it's
all invaluable. Amazing.
Yes. How to be patient and wait and understand your wrongs and understand.
So these are prodigal fathers.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Yes, absolutely. And as they learn these tools and they be patient on, waiting, some of them, write the kids, and the other parent may not let them talk to them. They just keep writing. And then there's other ones that the mother understands it's important for them to have a relationship with their father, whether they're locked up or not. And those are the most powerful stories, is because you have a person who's locked up and he's made some bad decisions at a very young age, but his children are coming in. And as his children are coming in to see him, they're seeing a changed man, especially if it's a man that has been converted to Christ. Yeah. They have seen the before and the after. And now this person is not acting like he knows it all, but this person is sharing his wisdom from a humble state of mind. He's saying, I made some bad decisions and I own up to it. And I'm not mad that I'm here because I chose to make this decision. But what I can tell you is that you don't have to make the same decision that I've made. That's right. And so they begin to pour into their kids and children. And then when they get out, they have already established a relationship with their children to the point that they just build on top of that.
That's right. Good. So the last person we had talked to was Shemichael Hallman in Memphis. And one of the things that he mentioned that just blew my socks off was that he worked with second and third grade boys on their reading skills because private prisons base their expansion plans on the level Black boys can read. Did I get that right, Bill?
Yeah. At third grade, those test scores go straight to planning.
Yep. So how do we break the school to prison pipeline?
That's a very interesting question because that's a loaded question. There's so many pieces.
I only ask those.
There's so many pieces to that puzzle. Young men of color, young boys of color are targeted at a very young age. And so some of the things that they've done in elementary school, some of their counterparts would never be expelled for, never be chastised for, would not be, kicked out of school. I use this analogy when I talk about man to man, and people say, well, tell me about your story. I actually had a woman that kind of coached me with this. She says, okay, we were at a philanthropy training and we were supposed to talk about how to raise money for our organization. And so they teamed me and partnered me with this woman. And so she said, okay, tell me about what you do. I said, well, I work with a lot of men and I'm trying to, really actually change the narrative about, deadbeat fathers. She said, why? I said, because I think it's important. And she says, why? And I said, because it's something that's needed. She says, why? And she said it to the point that I just got mad. And then I began to tell her why. I said, you have a young boy that's growing up in a very urban community where it's drug infested and there's prostitutes and there's liquor stores on every corner. And he's got to, wake up in the morning and he sees his mother being beaten by her boyfriend and her eye is black and, and the guy is in the corner and he's strung out with a needle in his arm. I said, then he has to fight through 3 or 4 gangs to school, and when he finally gets to school, they send him to the office because he's late. I said, and then when they send him to the office because he's late, then they suspend him. I said, this is the problem that we have. That's where it starts. So he gets suspended, for being late. And then somebody says, your mother is a prostitute. Or your mother is loose, or your father is a dope fiend, and you are already angry because of what you heard, and so you get into an altercation and to a fight, and so now you're suspended again. And then the next thing you don't want people to know how you are, and so you act like something that you're not, and so you begin to have to put on this facade that you're just real tough guy, and so now you're fighting every day. So what happens is now when you get suspended and you get incarcerated, because first you get suspended, and when you get suspended, you got this free time. So now you walk in the streets and you don't know what to do with yourself. So then you decide you want to break in a car or break into a house. And then now you are in the juvenile hall system. And so then they go back and look at your school records. And then they say, oh, yeah, he's always been in trouble. Yeah, he's been in trouble since he was in the first grade. Yeah, right here, he was truant. He was always late. And here, he got into a fist fight a few times. And we see that he stabbed somebody, and the stabbing, they didn't say that it was self-defense. And the guy was always beating on this guy. So he decided, he was going to take care of it. And so he grabbed a knife from home. And he said, the next time these guys jump me, that they're going to get it. But see, none of that is in the record, And so now the guy is in juvenile hall, and he's, now he's going to have to, he's scared to death, right? Because he's so young, but he's around these big guys, and they're punching him and calling him a punk, and you don't belong here, and so now he's gonna act like he's big, and he's got to learn how to fight and how to protect himself. And then now that he's learning how to protect himself, he begins to hang out with some bad characters, and so he finds himself coming back because now he's starting to like going back there because those are his friends. Those are the people that he latches on. And so he bonded with. So what they say is, man, when you get out, man, we gonna go and do some stuff, man. We gonna, get paid, man. We gonna make this money, and I'm gonna connect you with my partner, man, and he gonna show you how to sell some drugs, or he gonna show you how to do this. And so now you find yourself becoming a professional criminal. And so now the prison is not a rehabilitation center, but it's a place that just helps you to become a better criminal.
So then what impact is, for example, the Black Panther movie or President Obama? What kind of an impact are those role models having on these young Black men? In fact, Black men, period.
Well, it gives them hope. It's a place that, who'd ever thought there would be a Black president, Right. And so now that allows them to say, I can be the next Black president, or I can be the next president. Right. When you see Black Panther, it kind of lets you know that Black is not evil, that Black is not wicked. The only thing that is connected to Blackness is something negative. It's really something about heritage. It's about pride. It's about, I'm special too, and I'm seeing this young Black man that created this and produced this movie. That means that I can do that too. And because, when we talk to these young men, and I say, man, why don't you want to be a lawyer, man? Why don't you want to be a doctor? Or why don't you want to have your own business and sell houses or sell cars? It says, because we don't see those kind of people in our community. So what do you see? We see drug dealers, we see hustlers, we see pimps. Now we're talking about the real urban communities. We're talking about where the survival mode is. I mean, everybody's trying to make it.
I'm trying to dodge a bullet. I'm just trying to dodge a bullet.
Yeah. So those kind of people need to make themselves more available in the communities. You see all these guys that are NBA players now. Some of them give back, but a lot of these guys don't give back.
Most of them don't.
They grow up in communities, and then if they do give back, they give back to a community center. What is a community center going to do for you? It's going to keep you off the street. But I mean, hey, man, how much basketball can you play? And eventually, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision because you're going to make it to the NBA or you're not. And what happens if you don't?
Exactly. That's right. In fact, what's really disturbing to me is how many Black athletes want to skip and go straight to professional sport without the degree. I think Shaq has a PhD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He went back and continued his education because that's something that he promised his mom that he would do. He didn't need to. I mean, he was wealthy. So
no, he didn't have to, but I think it's an excellent example of, my body is not going to support my sporting life for too much longer. What am I going to do after that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do men raised by single moms like me, how do they get connected to mentors? I have tried through the church. It's like within a year they're moving or they have to go someplace and they can't do it anymore. And I just sort of gave up. I said, okay, all right, fine. Now I guess Jesus is your mentor, which I'm just like, so we have Jesus with skin on. But how do we get these boys or these kids connected to mentors? And is it even too late to get a male mentor? Is there such thing?
Well, I mean, first of all, you want to make sure that you can keep those kids busy, keep those boys busy, whether it's playing AAU or playing football, baseball. If you don't have a man figure in your home, or maybe you have an uncle, maybe you have a grandfather, maybe there's a school teacher, maybe there's a PE teacher.
In my son's case, it was Boy Scouts.
Yeah. So there's men that are everywhere. You just got to find out the right man to connect them with. Teachers are great. I've had some real good mentors that were teachers, coaches. My son's football coach can actually reach him better than I can.
Wow.
And I can tell my son something, and it goes in one ear and go out the other. Coach says it.
Coach says it.
Exact same thing, and it's like, what Coach said,
Gospel.
So
there's options.
Yes, it's a lot of options. A neighbor. It might be somebody that you've seen, and he's a really good man. You can tell he's a good man by the way he treats his children or the way he treats his wife. You can ask him and says, I'm struggling here with raising my son, and I was wondering. I kind of men like affirmation. They like to be stroked. I saw you with your wife and the way you engage with your children, and I was wondering, could you talk to my son? Because my son, I'm a single mother and I'm really trying to talk to my son, but I can't seem to reach him, because something about men reaching men, it's
That's
different.
Right.
Women reaching, no disrespect to women, but
No, you are 100% on target, because I used to be a part of a 12-step program, and we were taught early on, men sponsor men, women sponsor women, and there was hardcore accountability. If you found a sponsor, basically the criteria for your sponsor was that person has what you want. They have what you want, and there's something about them. And so I picked somebody, and she had a black belt. I mean, she kept me straight and narrow for 9.5 years. It changed my life. And so I know the value of that. That's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the boys club, YMCA,
Mm-hmm.
summer camp. I mean, it's a lot, but the sports is what got me off the streets. The sports is what, I used to go to the boys club every day, and I ended up, picking up a basketball and shot it and made it, and shot it again and made it, and realized, this is pretty good, and just fell in love with the game. And it took me away from the streets. It took me away from, joining gangs. I was cool with all the gang members, but they was cool with me because they liked the way I play basketball. So I got a pass,
That's helpful.
So it really helped me, because, when you got something that people like, then, they gravitate to you. I remember one time I was in West Oakland, which, you lived in East Oakland, you never went to West Oakland. That was just, you just didn't do that. But, we was daring and saying, we're going to go to this party in West Oakland and we're going to hang out and have a good time, And the brother came up to me, he's like, you go to Castlemont, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And I'm like, I'm already saying this is about to go down and it's going to be all bad, And the guy says, this is my party, man. And if you have a problem with anybody in here, you come to me and let me know. It didn't really register then, because I was stupid. I made some real bad decisions. But then as I got older and I started thinking, I said, man, that could have saved my life. Just because I had a gift and he liked the gift, that he recognized who I was, and he was honored that I was at his party. He's like, man, anything go down, just come to me. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you doing a documentary?
I am actually doing a fatherhood documentary. It's called The Gift of His Presence. And so we have Gary Payton in it. We have Trayvon Martin's dad in it. We have Shaka Sincor, one top producers and music producer, Michael Narada, Walden.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you also working with David Jassy?
Yeah, David's music is at the end of my trailer. He gave me all this stuff. He said, man, he says, take whatever you want. And have you heard of David?
No, you told me about David. I'm hoping that you're going to hook me up.
Oh, shoot. I don't know about that. David is busy. I heard he just landed his track, his album. He made an album with all the inmates in prison.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And so he's on Rolling Stones. He is on Good Morning America. This guy got out and hit it running. But, it was like he was a mentor in prison. He was already a producer, and he was an up and rising producer. He's from Sweden. But, when this guy somehow got a keyboard in his cell and he started playing the music and the guys liked it, and they were gang members against different gang members, but they would come by his cell and start rapping, and they didn't care if they didn't like each other. They was just getting down, and he made sure that if you're gonna rap, it's gonna be clean rap, because he's a Christian. He says there's not gonna be any fighting. So he set the boundaries, and then he made so many songs from in prison that now he's releasing out of prison.
What was the response of prisoners once they started doing those raps?
Oh, it was like they got free, because it goes back to what I was telling you earlier. Some people think that the only way that they can communicate is by using curse words. It's harder for them to learn how to communicate without using the curse words, because what it does, it causes them to think. So these guys started rapping, but they couldn't use curse words. And they started rapping about their hurt and their pain and their struggles and all of the stuff that was deep inside of them, that he said at the microphone, they started crying, just broke down and started crying. It was a part of healing for them. And he got a glimpse of that, and it changed his life. it changed their lives because then, he got a studio and then he began to get, like an Apple computer and the realized that this was something that was de-escalating crime and violence. So they gave them that platform, and then, rap is a way of expressing yourself.
Yes.
It's like, remember they used to be singing the blues, and, the blues was a way that talked about, their stories, where rap is a storytelling. It
Right.
tells about their story, but it also heals and delivers them,
And a lot of them, it's a common story too, right? So that's something they're sharing right there.
Exactly. Yeah. It is a common story because they all can relate. That's very true. It's a very common story where, it's kind of like the gospel, when I share the story of Jesus Christ, before I can tell the story of Jesus Christ, I tell my story. Well, right. Most of the time when I'm telling my story to somebody who's where I used to be. So it resonates with them in a way that is more powerful than the story that they've heard about Jesus Christ. That's what made Jesus Christ so powerful. It was the fact that he could use parables. When he talked to sheep, when he talked to shepherds, he talked about sheep. When he talked to the fishermen,
that was the rap in his day, right?
That was the rap in his day. Tax collectors. He talked about money, talked about prostitutes. He talked to the harlots, and so, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, they hated him because they was like, what is wrong with him? He hates
getting through. He's
tax collectors and notorious sinners, but they loved him. They loved him. It's like, where you staying at, Jesus? Jesus said, I don't have a place to stay. He said, can I come stay with you? Sure,
come on over.
So yeah.
When are we going to see this documentary?
Well, when we finish funding it, we actually need like another couple $100,000 to finish it. People don't really. Well, I don't know. Have you seen the documentary 13th?
No.
Okay, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Well, you need to see it. It's on Netflix. It talks about the 13th Amendment. Do you know it cost them $1 million to do that documentary?
Yeah, it's amazing.
$1 million is nothing for a documentary. So, we're trying to raise the funding. We did the trailer just to let people see what we can, but we have so much footage. And we need to, get help with people to do the editing. We need people to help us, with the lighting. We need people to help us with, so much that different people play parts, to be able to give a really good product.
Yeah, but you just need a good story, which you have, so it'll happen. That's really exciting.
And it's and then you have to put people in there that people know. If you just get a bunch of people that nobody knows, they don't. But they say, "Oh, Gary Payton, he's a Hall of Famer." Shaka Sinclair. Oh man, he's an activist. Shaka Sinclair.
There's gotta be.
Yeah,
there's gotta be a way for you to raise that money. There's gotta be interest out there, enough interest, especially with the BLM movement this year. Especially.
Well, we've missed a lot of opportunities because we didn't have the money. They had the Black Film Festival last year. Yeah. The topic to the Black Film Festival last year was fatherhood. It was
your time isn't. No. Don't worry. Your documentary will be relevant at the right time.
You're going to have your own festival just on that one topic.
Oh, absolutely. And what I tell people is, see, documentary really tells a story and exposes certain things, but it really doesn't give you the details of where to go from there. Our documentary is to show the statistics of fatherhood and how it is so destructive without being a father. There was a guy named Dr. Blackenhood, and he said, the most destructive trend of our society today is fatherlessness. He didn't say killings, homicides, substance abuse, human trafficking. He said the greatest destructive trend of our society today is fatherlessness. And now watch this. I heard Dr. Miles Monroe say it's the greatest sociological, economical, psychological curse on all humanity in every country.
Yeah, again, you just can't count expulsions. You can't just count murders. There's so much more that it impacts. So much more.
And the thing is, it is not a United States problem. It's a
Oh
human.
no, this is a full court press by the enemy. He is trying. He has been trying since he got busted in the garden. I mean, he has been after us, and right now that's what we're seeing. That's exactly what we're seeing.
If you knock the head out, then you don't have to worry about it. If you keep the father out the house, then that means you keep the gatekeeper out the house, and the enemy can come in like a flood. He's
called the father of lies. That's interesting, right?
That's right.
Replacement father.
That's right. That's right. But he's a false identity of.
Well, same thing. He's going to give you what you're lacking,
He's
right?
a shadow of the father.
That's the same thing. Same playbook. He's going to give you what you're lacking.
Yes. So it's important, that we finish this documentary, because what the documentary is going to do is it's going to point people to what we do. The documentary is only to bring awareness of the importance of what we do. And why is it important to have fathers? Well, look at the documentary. And then you see the statistics of all the men are being in prison and the large numbers of men that are locked up.
This is not a small thing, right? This is something really big. So like when we're developing the questions to talk to you, do we have 2 questions? No, we have like these many questions. Right? It's not a small thing at all.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
No, it's so intricate. And to put a cap on it, the Lord told us how to pray. Our Father.
Absolutely. Well, the Bible says, honor your father and your mother.
That's right.
Then he gives you a promise. He says, and you'll have long life.
You'll have long life, yes.
So what happens if you don't honor your father and mother? Which
You'll be dead tomorrow.
I'm just saying,
Amen. I'm telling you, yeah, it's so true. So if somebody wanted to give money to your venture, how might they be able to do that? Is there an address that is there a way to contact you?
They just go into to our website. It's man, MAN, the number 2, MAN at, and then you repeat it, man, MAN, number 2, man. It's man to man at man-to-man -UYA.org. The U is for urban, the Y is for you, the A is for advocate. So it's man-to-man at man-to-man -UYA.org.
Okay.
And it's just a donate button. You just donate.
And what is your goal? What's the amount of money that you're trying to raise? $1 million, 500,000? What would make this work?
Well, I mean, to really do what we're trying to do, we need $1 million. Yeah, I mean.
All right, there it is. He needs $1 million. Get him $1 million. The Lord, we have treasures in heaven. We're just asking for a down payment right here. So,
well, see, $1 million is. Let me tell you what that $1 million does.
Wait, it's not. I heard it's not for Stewart. No, let's correct that.
No,
you spread that across the number of people.
Divide
that by the number of people who are being impacted. It's pennies.
It is. Yeah. Because what the Man to Man's program is a multifaceted program, and all the areas that you see these men struggle with, we help them with: domestic violence, mental health issues, job security. We get them, apprenticeship. I just met with a couple contractors today where we give them skills on how to be a plumber or electrician or carpenter. We're getting ready to teach a coding class, teaching the kids how to be computer programmers, giving them the tools that they need so that they don't have to sell drugs, that they can get the education where maybe they don't want to go to college, but they're good with their hands. So then we're giving them a trade so they can make. And PG&E is hiring these young men at $50 an hour. I guarantee you.
Come on now. Come on. That's good. That's good news right there.
And then the man-to-man program is not just restricted to the Bay Area. I mean, like you saw, we host shows in Canada. I mean, just like you and I talking, they're having conversations in Canada about man to man. We're getting ready to launch in Canada. I've been asked to take it to Ghana, Norway, New Jersey. And so when you talk about this $1 million, it's really capacity building. It's to create staff, training, material. We got an online class now, so we have to, it's the whole shebang. It's to cause men to live a better life, and we're here to provide them the tools so that they can be successful.
Yeah, and we should emphasize that it's not just a documentary movie; it's all the resources around it. Right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Well, I really appreciated talking to you. I hope we can talk again, because this is a never-ending subject. There's so much to it. And I really, we're going to have to talk more, even if it's offline. But yes, thank you so much for coming.
We can go for another 10 hours, but I just,
I know, right?
I learned so much and appreciate your sharing. It was just amazing to see how God's working through you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's always good to see you again, Bill.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me on your show. You know what? As much as I can get the word out, I'm telling you, you will see in the near future, Man to Man will be in every city in America.
God willing.
And as long as we can get it into the different countries, they got the problem in London. They got the problem in England. They got the problem in Africa. And so what we can do is we'll start working at one place at a time, and until we can start changing this, narrative that fathers are not supposed to be present in their lives, or they're deadbeats, and that they don't care about their children. That's so far from the truth. There are men that want to be engaged with their children, and they run from their responsibilities, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how.
So good. Well, thank you all for joining me for this episode of Revivalist Conversations. You can find me on Facebook at the Revivalist News Network, and you can also catch me on Twitter at Revivalist News, and TikTok. I'm on TikTok at Revivalist News. Come see what I'm doing. You can see my dogs and see what I look like without makeup. All right. So I just want to say one final blessing. Just be at peace. Walk in peace. Peace out.
Amen. God bless you.
Thanks, Stewart. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.